Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Manzur Ahmed, lecturer history. Our today's question for 11th class students of history subject is: did Japan's policy of industrialization lead to wars with its neighbors and destruction of environment? Let's explain the question. Dear students, we know that with the Meiji Restoration, that's from 1868 to 1912, during this period, Mutsuhito Meiji became or was the ruler of Japan, and during this period Mutsuhito Meiji tried to modernize all fields of life in Japan. And the period from 1868 to 1912, during which Mutsuhito Meiji tried to modernize all aspects of the life of Japan, is known as Meiji Restoration. And during this period all efforts were made in the industrial development of Japan. A number of industries came up in different parts of Japan. And now the question is, when Japan established a number of industries in various parts of the country, or when Mutsuhito Meiji established different industries, various industries in different parts of Japan, did this industrialization of Japan result in wars with its neighbors, with the neighbors of Japan? And how the industrialization of Japan resulted in the destruction of the natural environment? Now, dear students, let's answer the question. Dear students, we know that Mutsuhito Meiji, or during Meiji Restoration, all walks of life in Japan got modernized. The Meiji government from 1868 to 1912 paid all attention towards the industrial development of Japan. In 1870, Mutsuhito Meiji established a separate Ministry of Industry with the purpose to promote and give boost to the industrial sector in Japan. Thus, within no time, different kinds of industries like iron and steel industry, textile industry, sericulture industry, shipping industry, arms industry, all such industries were established in different parts of Japan. As a result of this industrialization, as a result of establishment of industries in different parts of Japan, the industrial production increased enormously. And we know that in the industries, enormous production was only possible when there was continuous supply of raw material to these industries. And more supply of raw material, there are more chances of having higher production. So more supply of raw material, more industrial production. Less supply of raw material, less industrial production. So the industrial production or the industrialization in Japan was directly dependent upon the supply of raw material. So with the purpose to continue enormous industrial production in Japan, the Japanese government tried to ensure continuous supply of raw materials to these industries, and the raw materials were not available in Japan itself. So for making the raw materials available to the industries of Japan, the Japanese government tried to colonize different areas in its neighborhood and supply raw material from these colonies to the Japanese industries. And this attempt of Japan to colonize different areas in its neighborhood with the purpose to continue supply of raw material to Japanese industries resulted in Japan's wars with its neighbors, especially China and Russia. So in other words, we can say the Japanese industrialization, in one way or the other, ultimately brought Japan in direct confrontation with its neighbors, direct war with its neighbors. And we also know that it was in 1894 and 1895 when Japan had to fight war with China, in which China was defeated. Also 1904-95, Japan defeated Russia as well. Japan had to fight war with Russia as well and defeated Russia. So we need to understand, there is no doubt in the fact Japan industrialized itself, but this industrialization made it necessary for the rulers of Japan, especially Mutsuhito Meiji, to ensure continuous supply of raw materials to the British industries, to the Japanese industries, and continuous supply of raw material was not available in Japan. So, to make the supply of raw material available to the Japanese industries, Matsuhito Meiji or other Japanese rulers tried to colonize different areas in their neighborhood with the purpose to continue supply of raw material to the Japanese industries. And this effort of colonizing various areas in the neighborhood brought Japan in direct conflict with its neighbors like China and Russia. Further, dear students, this demand for raw materials, when raw materials were needed in large quantities for Japanese industries, and these raw materials were often got from natural sources in different parts of the world, in different parts of Japan and other colonies which were occupied by Japan. As a result, the excessive use of raw materials resulted in the exploitation of natural resources, which badly affected the environment with the passage of time. So we can say Japanese industrialization not only brought Japan in war, not only made Japan to fight wars with its neighbors, but also Japanese industrialization resulted in the destruction of environment as well. Thank you.